ARRLNTS Net Nightly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC. W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Anyone need to use the repeater before PM Skynet? Is KF5 PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? Transmit without direction from net control, that would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. Weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topic: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to w5fc.org right now for the complete list, and remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts: general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 rounds. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in, so this time I'll turn the net over to my alternate, Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll do the check-in on KF5 PDS.
Thank you, Ms. Billy. This is KE5ICX. I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins, beginning with low power short time. If you are one of those folks, I'd like you to check in now. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low power short time.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Alpha Uniform, David on an HT in Mesquite.
Kilo 5, Mike Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas, low power.
All right, I'll go ahead and pick up those two. I've got KI5UAU, David, on an HT in Mesquite. I got K5MCD, Cody, over in Dallas, low power. And I'm also going to include Philip and Crandall, K5KOB, since he came in through alternate means. Additional low power short time. If you're one of those, please come now.
This is
Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas Low Power.
And it picked up one more, WB4MFI, that's Ted Dallas Low Power. All right, for the low power short time stations checked in, if any of you have anything you want to bring to the net now before you disappear into the ether, please come with your call. All right, we will go to general check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening over air, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. General check-ins.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Ranch.
Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington, using the radio I won at the Irving Ham Fest.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, on planet Earth still.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
The Whiskey Golf Cruise in Arlington.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay of Massachusetts.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick, Dallas.
This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
All right, this is a good place if any to break. So let's go ahead and get those folks checked in. We got NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Got KF5ZBL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch. KG5ZMG, that's Joe in Arlington on his new radio. Sounds good, Joe, by the way. KF5JJ, Chaz, Planet Earth. I think he's close to Mesquite, but don't tell the aliens that. NB5F, Virginia, over in Fort Worth. Good seeing you today, by the way. Chaz as well, Bill as well, Tony as well. We're all at Moon Day. You should have been, too. KG5, Whiskey Victor Lima, that's James in Carrollton. KF5KWG, Cruz in Arlington, good seeing you. N5OF, Clay in Mesquite. KG5APL, that's Patrick in Dallas. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. I'll take additional check-ins. Please come now. Okay, well, we'll have other opportunities. I think a lot of folks are probably tired tonight from a long day at what did we do? Moon Day today, Moon Day. But I will now move to Echolink check-ins. If you're over there and you'd like to check in, I'm going to allow you to do so. Please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. I will give you extra time. Echolink only, please.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly in point.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and fill in some blanks here. I've got Johnny, KG5TNF. I don't think your audio is loud enough for it to break squelch here, but I did notice you trying to check in, so I'm going to go ahead and do that for you. I got K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Point, and I got KF5PDS, Miss Billy over in Sherman. It was good seeing both of you as well today. So very good. We had a very good showing from Moon Day today. Now, I'm going to go ahead and ask for any check-ins, any mode. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your location and where you're transmitting from. Please come with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. And Billy is net control, so I don't know why I brought her in. Apparently I am in Flakesville today, but don't worry about me. I'll figure it out. Billy, we're up to 19 check-ins from KE5ITX.
Thank you very much, Tom. And yes, NC is included in the count, so thanks for including me. And it was great seeing everybody at Moon Day, so I was there as well and saw a lot of y'all, and it was good getting to chat with many of you during lunchtime. So let's go ahead and get started with tonight's net with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to license. If you have an announcement, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Yeah, I'm Tony. Good evening. It was great seeing you. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Thank you, Brenda. It was great to see you too, and I got to see other Skynet people like Tom and Kelly, K5KTX, and Chaz, KF5HFA. It was a fun day. Unfortunately, fun is past, and now we have to cope with things like the Afterglow movie. The Afterglow movie discussion net will take place on this repeater at 10:30 p.m., where we can all say unusual things about the unusual British sci-fi TV show Moonbase. On a more uplifting and happier note, this Monday is the fourth Monday, so be prepared for GeekNet on this repeater at 7 p.m. Discussion topics and any strange geeky news that you would like to share are particularly welcome. This Monday, whoops, I think I unkeyed there. This month does have a fifth Monday. We will have a surprise net on the night of Monday, July the 31st at 7 p.m. What will the net be about? Well, I don't know. It's a surprise net. Please send suggestions to nets, N-E-T-S, November Echo Tango Sierra, at W5SC.org. We need a surprise net, folks. Put your thinking caps on. Or perhaps your clown wigs. I don't know. It could be funny. NT5TM, back to net.
Much, Tony. Are there any other announcements for this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign. None, but I see that Chaz has spoken up, says he has a clown wig, Tony, so maybe there's something to that. All right, let's get on with some other residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you'll need Echolink installed and you registered. Find the net under groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYP is the welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, no AMSAT Net East on that night. The Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC hosts Monday night nets. The first Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's Net. I'd like to come and gather some new recipes from members. Or share a recipe with the group. If you have a question or anecdote about food, join the Ham Fixin's Net. The second Monday of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. On the third Monday of the month, come back for a second helping of Ham Fixin's Net. Tony mentioned on the fourth Monday is Geek. And yes, this month we have a surprise net on the Monday. Told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays is AMSAT East at 8 p.m., Q&A, info, and news for amateur satellites. And on Fridays, Search City Simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa 5 GRH is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. Search City, all are welcome. And Saturdays is the Night of Nets with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. Of course, at 9 p.m., Skynet. And as Tony mentioned, following Skynet is the Afterglow Movie Net at 10:30. On that in just a moment. First and third Sundays, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. And daily is the ARRL Net National Traffic System Training Net every night at 6:30 p.m. Central. You're welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as I mentioned, following Skynet at 10:30 on Saturday night is the After Net. What we do is a movie is selected, we watch it during the week, and we come back on the following Saturday night and discuss the movie. We discuss any aspect from plot and characterization, to special effects, music, and any other trivia about the movie or other interesting facts about the film. So let me turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll read us tonight's Afterglow info from KF5 PDX.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. This is KE5ICX, and here's my highly accurate synopsis of tonight's TV show. The year is 2003, the distant future. Mankind has colonized the moon with a series of international moon bases. Moon Base 1 was run by the Americans. Moon Base 2, the Russians. Moon Base 3, Europe. Moon Base 4, China. And of course, Moon Base 5, run by a rogue group from New Jersey. The European base was small by comparison to all the others, and Moon Base 5 would send regular messages. It would be a shame if something happened to such a nice base. That's when the espresso machine blew up, putting a huge hole in the base. Base Commander David Calder was set up the whole thing. Moon Base 1 made a prank phone call, while Moon Base 2 would ring the doorbell at all hours of the night. space was dangerous and unpredictable place, and Moonbase 3 had a giant Kick Me label on its airlock. Join us for the unusual SF series, Moonbase 3, with the first episode, Departure and Arrival. That's tonight at 10:30 p.m. And if you feel so bold, if you manage to sit through that, you can watch the other 5 episodes, also available, one after another, after another, after another. Back to you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICS.
Thanks very much, Tom. All right, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Chaz, KF5JHA, if you'll give us information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas from KF5CDS.
Thank you so much, Billy. Good evening, everyone. It was really great to see you, Billy, at Frontiers of Flight Museum, and your presentation was excellent. That was great. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held in 6 days on Friday, July the 28th. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is going to be Michael Reimer, and his topic is going to be about the upcoming solar eclipses and suggestions on what tasks should do for the general public observing sessions. Now, Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there would be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. So tonight, which is the 4th Saturday, the stargazing is held at Rockwall. If there is a ham radio operator that's at the stargazing that would like to make a report, come now with your call sign. Well, I believe that Glenn, one of our regulars here on Skynet, is the person who runs the Rockwall observing station, so maybe he's out there using a telescope rather than a ham radio. Check the TASS website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And it's back to you, Billy. KF5PDS, this is KF5JHA.
Hey, Rick, Chaz. It was great seeing you at Noonday. There was a lot of DARC folks at Noonday. Next up is National Space Society events and activities. Did I hear Bill checking 5DB?
Negative. He did not check in.
Yeah, I didn't think I heard him. I just wanted to double check. Let me go over to that. This here. So, National Space Society of North Texas. Their website is ntx.nss.org. The National Space Society of North Texas has an active Facebook page. National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access, and you'll receive leaders and club activities. So this is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Our next up is discussion topic of the evening. I have chosen NASA's CRISM mission. So CRISM, which is XRISM, pronounced CRISM, is the X-ray imaging and spectroscopy mission. The NASA collaborative mission, JAXA is the Japanese space It's a collaborative mission with JAXA and ESA, the European Space Agency, investigates X-ray sky using high-resolution spectroscopy and imaging, and is expected from Japan in 2023. And you can connect with CRISM on Twitter and Facebook. Having just a little bit of trouble with my art. All right, I am back. So, this mission is going to provide breakthroughs in the study of structure formation of the universe, outflows from galaxy nuclei, and dark matter. As the only international X-ray observatory project of its period, CRISM will function as a next-generation space telescope in the X-ray astronomy field, similar to how the James Webb Space Telescope, Fermi Space Telescope, and the Atacama Large Millimeter Array, or ALMA Observatory, are placed in their respective fields. The mission is a stopgap for avoiding a potential observation period gap between X-ray telescopes of the present, Chandra and XMM Newton, and those of the future, the Advanced Telescope for High Energy Astrophysics, or ATHENA, X-ray Observatory. CRISM, a blank period in X-ray astronomy, may arise in the early 2020s of Hitomi. Hitomi was an X-ray astronomy satellite commissioned by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, for studying extreme energetic processes in the universe. In its formulation, CRISM was also known as the Astro H successor, or Astro H2. The instruments, CRISM will carry two instruments for studying the soft X-ray energy range, Resolve and X10. The satellite will have telescopes for each of the instruments. SXT1, which is soft X-ray telescope for imager, that's I, and SXTS, the soft X-ray telescope for spectrometer. The pair of telescopes will have a focal length of 5.6 meters, or 8. Resolve is an X-ray microcalorimeter developed by NASA and the Goddard Space Flight Center. This instrument will likely not be a complete remanufactured SXS, as there are some space-qualified hardware left from developing SXS, and these spare parts may be utilized to build Resolve. Extend is an X-ray camera. Unlike Resolve, which will be a built-to of its predecessor, Extend differs in that its energy resolution will be improved from Hitomi's SXI. There is some information about NASA's CRISM project. It is a planned 3-year mission. The launch date is expected to be August 26, 2023, on an H-2A 202 rocket from the Tanegashima Space Center. The tractor is Mitsubishi Heavy. And to have a geocentric in low Earth orbit. Its diameter is 45 centimeters, the main telescope 18 inches, and the length, as we said, was 5.6 meters, or 18 feet. So there's some information. Be interesting to look forward to of NASA's CRISM information. You can find this information on Wikipedia, also on the CRISM NASA page on gsfc.nasa.gov, on the NASA SVS. You can Google CRISM, XRISM, NASA, and you can find the NASA page. So this is KF5 PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. At this time, I'd like to return the net to Tom, KE5ICX, but you'll do a quick check-in round, see if there's anybody on frequency, and then I give you permission to directly turn transfer was ICX from KF5 PDS.
All right, thank you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo 5. Kilo 5. Juliet Delta Whiskey John in Coppell.
Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Foxtrot Romeo. Jacob at work, Dallas.
This is Alpha Golf 9 Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
All right, we picked up 4. Actually picked up 3 because I did mention Philip, K5KOB. I got you checked in. You were number 3 on my list, but I'll acknowledge you again because you checked in. I got K5JDW, John, over in Coppell. I got KG5UFR, Jacob in Dallas. And I got AG9SG, Antonio, over in Dallas. And it was good seeing you today, Antonio. Thank you for coming to Moon Day. Let's see, now we will move this over to Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, what's up?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Billy. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call the segment of Skynet What's Up. It's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks in the sky. So that was slide number 1, Slide Master. If you didn't know who the Slide Master was, that's Tom. For those of you that are on the video sequence, because right now you're going to get some eye candy. Slide number 2, please. We've already talked about it, but I'm going to give you some pictures, if you're on the video version, of Moon Day. So slide 2 is Moon Day. I took a panorama from the balcony of the hangar, and that's what's on that slide right there. Also, the logo for today is Moon Day, too. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. The Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas had a table with all sorts of stuff set up on there, even solar filters for the upcoming solar eclipses. They had all sorts of stuff there. Yes, they did. And Slide Master, and Huey, one of our regulars here, was at the task table. Yes, I didn't get a picture of him close up, but he was there. The next slide, slide number 4, is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club table. There were several people there. I did zoom in on a couple of people. Randy, he's on here every once in a while. I don't know. He hasn't been here for a little while. Then there's Brenda on there. Yep. There's a few people there. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 5. Dr. Billy, our net control for tonight. She did a presentation at 11 o'clock, was well received. She had lots of questions from little ones and big ones alike. So some very good questions, I think, and she fielded them nicely. She talked about the moon features and much, much more. So nice talk. I followed up after her with another talk on the Apollo missions and moon phases. That's what I talked about at high noon. Slide Master, slide number 6. Now, I did zoom in on a couple of people. Callie, hey, she's in there. She was at a table all by herself. I tried to help her out, but she said, nope, I'm good. Okay. And she was talking about primarily the upcoming 2 eclipses on October the 14th and then April the 8th. Then the next person on that row, the picture is Brenda. Yep. And the bottom row is Randy, Tony, and Tom. Well, there you go. Now, Slide Master is aliens? I think so, anyway. Purple aliens. UAPs are going to be talked about, I think, in Congress this week, so, you know, unidentified anomalous phenomena. Yeah, they used to be called UFOs. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. On July the 17th, the moon was new, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. Did you see it tonight? It was beautiful in the evening sky, and it was clear. The last couple of weekends, we've had some cloudy weather and chances of rain. The first quarter moon will be held on July the 25th. Held? Okay, it's just going to be on July the 25th. Full moon is going to be on August the 1st. August the 2nd, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 357,311 kilometers. Third quarter moon is on August the 8th. August 16th is when the new moon happens. Also on August 16th is when the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,634 kilometers. I really do have all this written out. I just don't know how to read tonight. Slide Master, slide number 9. On July the 28th, low in the western evening sky, the planet Mercury and the star Regulus will be in conjunction with a distance of less than 1/4 of a degree apart from each other. I think a pair of binoculars are going to be necessary because it's going to be during strong twilight. So I think that would be something to look forward to. I hope it's clear. It's only in a couple of days from now. Slide Master, slide number 10, please. On the night of July the 29th, 30th, there won't be 1, not 2, but 3 different meteor showers that will peak. The Alpha Capricornus meteor shower will have around a handful of meteors. The Southern Delta Aquarids meteor shower will have about 16 meters per hour, and the July Gamma Draconid meteor shower could have, maybe just a few meteors, but could have over 100 meters per hour, so that could be interesting. Now, to get more detailed information about how to observe meteors and meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Organization, IMO.net, or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 11, please. I mentioned this once, but it's worth mentioning again. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held in 6 days on Friday, July the 28th. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is Michael Reimer, and his topic is going to be about the upcoming solar eclipses and what tasks should be doing for general public observing sessions. And once again, Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again tonight. Is probably happening at Rockwell. We just haven't heard anything from them. Once again, texasastro.org is the place to go to get details about meetings and public observing sessions. Now, Slide Master, slide number 12. Do any of you out there in Radioland have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Hearing nothing, I guess we're going to slide number 13. So as the moon was waning last week, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next week, actually I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5, JHA, back to our net control, KF5 PDS, it's all yours, Billy.
Thanks, Chaz. For those, in case you're wondering what Moon Day is, you've heard a lot about Moon Day and say how great it was to see everyone out there and what fun we had. Moon Day is the largest space expo in Texas, held at the Frontiers of Flight Museum at Love Field in Dallas. It's always held on the day closest to the July 20th Apollo from 10 to 4. And great time is had by all. We have lots of exhibitors out there. There's, of course, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas and the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. But there are other astronomical societies and robotic society, rocket builders, and all manner of different space societies, the Mars Society, National Space Society, etc. And there's always lots of talks done by volunteers. As Chaz and I mentioned, we both present today, but there are other presenters talk about various aspects of space, exploration, the moon, Mars, etc. And then there's always a wonderful keynote speaker, which is usually an astronaut. But in the past, we have had other speakers. Today's speaker was astronaut Colonel Shane Kimbrough. He's a retired U.S. Army colonel and is now an astronaut. He talked about his experience on his space shuttle Soyuz mission and his expedition to the station, and then was kind enough to speak with folks that wanted to talk with him, get a picture, and get an autograph. So he did a very nice autograph session. It was really wonderful to get to speak with him and get a picture with him as well. Next year, put it on your calendar. Museum, look up Moon Day. More information, not just for Moon Day, but for the museum itself. And they are open for just going and enjoying the museum. They have lots so you can explore, and very knowledgeable volunteers in the aircraft there and give you a lot of history of aviation. It's a wonderful museum to visit year-round, but definitely come for Moon Day because it's popular. All right, next up is space exploration, and this time I'll turn the net over to Brenda. OZL, the net is yours. KF5 CDS.
Billy, I'm going to go ahead and do Brenda's segment. She is still working on her radio. In fact, I got to visit her and help her out a little bit. She's since moved and has not set up her radio, so she's generously put it all together, but I'm going to read it. But I'm going to give credit to her. This is from Brenda, WB5OZL, and she has the following. She's talking space exploration news. Says, astronomers have discovered the first evidence of ultra-rare Trojan planets, two sibling planets found on the same orbit around the same star. The potential co-orbiting planet dancing around the young star PDS 70 is roughly 370 light years away, consists of a Jupiter-sized planet and a cloud of debris, possibly the shattered remains of a dead planet, or the gathering building blocks of one yet to be born. If scientists confirm that the debris cloud is moving along at the same orbital path as the giant planet, the discovery will be the first ever detection of Trojan planets. The research published their findings Wednesday, that was July 19th, in the journal. Next up is, says here, asteroid sample recovery rehearsal. This one is July 18th through 20th. The team behind NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission rehearsed recovering a mock sample return capsule from a location where the real one, the fragments of asteroid Bennu, will land on September 24th in the Utah desert. So the team has rehearsed portions of the recovery operation many times this year. This is the first realistic rehearsal yet, taking place on the Department of Defense's Utah Test and Training Range, about 80 miles to southwest of Salt Lake City. sites taking place at a real landing location. The rehearsal included helicopter training for the OSIRIS-REx team members who will fly by helicopter, retrieve the sample capsule from its landing site inside a Then, let's see, boulders from Dimorphos. The astronomers using Hubble's extraordinary sensitivity have discovered a swarm of boulders that are possibly shaken off of an asteroid when NASA deliberately slammed a half-ton dark impactor spacecraft into Dimorphos at approximately 14,000 miles per hour. The 37 free-flung boulders range in size from 3 feet to 22 feet across, based on Hubble, it says photometry, I guess that's the term. They are drifting away from the asteroid at a little more than half a mile per hour, roughly the walking speed of a giant tortoise. The total mass of these detected boulders is about 0.1% the mass of Dimorphos. The boulders are most likely not shattered pieces of the Dominion asteroid caused by the impact. They were already scattered across the asteroid's surface, as evidenced in the last close-up picture taken by the DART spacecraft just 2 seconds before collision, when it was only 7 miles above the surface. Now we have some space-related birthdays. First is Janet Kavandi, July 17, 1959. She flew STS-91, 99, and 104. John Glenn, July 18, 1921. This is the Mercury Atlas 6, and he was on a space shuttle mission, STS-95. Josh Cassanda, July 18, 1973, SpaceX Crew 5, Expedition 68 and 69. Scott Tingle, he was born July 19, 1965. He was on Soyuz MS-07, Expedition 5455, and he is due for the Boeing Starliner 1 mission coming up here someday. And then we've got Roy Bridges. He was born July 19, 1943. He was on missions STS-51F and STS-61F, which never flew. I guess that mission was canceled. On This Week in Space History, we have on July 16, 2011, the NASA Dawn spacecraft entered Vesta's orbit, studying the asteroid's geology and composition. Dawn revealed that Vesta is actually a protoplanet surviving from the earliest days of the solar system. Then the big one that we've been talking about all night this evening is Apollo 11 launch on July 16, 1969. The Apollo 11 launch from Cape Kennedy on that date, carrying Commander Neil Armstrong, Command Module Pilot Michael Collins, and Lunar Module Pilot Edwin Buzz Aldrin into the initial Earth orbit of 114 by 116 miles. 2 hours and 44 minutes and 1.5 revolutions after the launch, the S-4B stage reignited for a second burn of 5 minutes, 48 seconds, placing Apollo 11 into a translunar orbit. The Command and Service Module, or CSM, Columbia, separated from the stage, which includes the spacecraft Lunar Module Adapter, SLA, containing the Lunar Module, or LM Eagle. After transposition and docking of the SLA panels on the S-4B stage, the CSM docked with the Lunar Module. The S-4B stage separated and was injected into a heliocentric orbit 4 hours and 40 minutes into the flight. And then, of course, on July 20th, 1969 was the first moon landing. Armstrong and Aldrin entered the LM again and made a final check at 100 hours and 12 minutes into the flight, and the Eagle undocked and separated from Columbia for visual inspection. At 101 hours and 36 minutes, when the LM was behind the moon on its 13th orbit, the LM descent engine fired for 30 seconds to provide retrograde thrust and command descent orbit insertion, changing to an orbit of 9 by 67 miles on a trajectory that was virtually identical to the one flown on Apollo 10. At 102 hours and 33 minutes after Columbia and Eagle had reappeared from behind the moon, and when the LM was about 300 miles uprange, powered descent initiation was performed with the descent engine firing for 756.3 seconds. After 8 minutes, the LM was at gain gate at 26,000 feet above the surface and about 5 miles above the landing site. The descent engine continued to provide braking thrust until about 102 hours and 45 minutes into the mission. Partially piloted manually by Armstrong, the Eagle landed on the Sea of Tranquility at Site 2 at 0 degrees, 41 minutes, 15 seconds, north latitude, and 23 degrees, 26 minutes, east latitude. This is about 4 miles downrange from the predicted touchdown point and occurred almost 1.5 minutes earlier than scheduled. It included a powered descent that ran a mere nominal 40 seconds longer than pre-flight planning due to translation maneuvers to avoid a crater during the final phase of the landing. And there you have it. So that was Miss Brenda's presentation for tonight. Hopefully we will get her back on the air here soonish. Find some time to get over there and help her out. Okay, that's it from me. Back to net control. This is KE5ICS.
Thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate it. This is PDS Billy, your net control for this section of the DAR Skynet. All right, next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So at this time, I will return the net to Chaz. KF5JHA, the net is yours. KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy. Slide Master, slide number 14, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there's about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Ophiuchus, the snake handler. Now, if you remember, we talked about serpents, the snake that he's holding last week. So Ophiuchus is the serpent bearer, but I think more familiar terms in Texas would be the snake wrangler. Doesn't that sound much better? There's no classical mythological hero with the name of Ophiuchus, but the constellation is believed to represent the ancient Greek physician. No, I'm going to mess this up. Cephalus. The symbol, the universal symbol for medicine, belongs to him. That's with the intertwining snakes on a staff. Yeah. Serpents are represented by the constellation of serpents, and the snake is held by Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is sometimes called the 13th constellation of the zodiac. I call it the 13th constellation of the zodiac all the time because it is along the ecliptic. The ecliptic is the path that the sun follows along in the sky, which determines the zodiac. In fact, the portion of the ecliptic, slide number 15, what everyone's been waiting for, the jokes of the week. All right, yep, more snake jokes, but it's different ones than last week. What's the best unit of measurement for a snake? Well, it's in inches because they don't have any feet. Oh, come on, that was funny. What do you call a magic snake? An adder-cadabra. Adder's the type of snake, right? Adder-cadabra. What do you call a snake who works for the government? A civil serpent. What do you give a sick snake? Aspirin. Who is a snake's favorite author? Well, William Shakespeare, of course. What's a snake's favorite TV show? Oh, come on now. Someone in Echolink, they've got to figure this one out. What is a snake's favorite TV show? Type it in there. We've got enough people on Echolink. They can do this. I know they can. What's a snake's favorite TV show? Okay. I've given you enough time. Monty Python, of course. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Tom. But I think you've got the script, so you probably knew what it was. And this is a bonus one. I usually do only 5 or 6 jokes, but this is the 7th one. Why was the snake handler mad at the jewel thief? Why was the snake handler mad at the jewel thief? Because he wanted his diamond back. You might have to think about that one for a while. Slide Master, slide number 16, please. Barnard's dwarf star that is about 6 light years away, making it the second closest star to our solar system. Only the Alpha Centaur trinary star system is closer. It is Barnard star is famous for having the largest known proper motion of all the stars in the sky as seen from the Earth. That's why it's so famous. You've probably heard of Barnard star before. It is a faint 9th magnitude star that requires a finder chart and a good telescope to locate. Can't see it on your own. Probably not with binoculars. Need a telescope. Now, you can see it using an 8-inch telescope and a finder chart from Burnham's Celestial Handbook. Barnard star was discovered by Edward Emerson Barnard in 1916. Slide Master, slide number 17, please. M9 on Charles Mezier's list. This is the 9th object, is a globular cluster that is easily seen in binoculars and telescopes. Using an 8-inch scope, you can start to resolve the individual stars in the cluster. The cluster looks dim compared to other globular clusters seen in Ophiuchus. Slide Master, slide number 18, please. Messier object number 10. M10 is the brighter and much easier globular cluster to see than M9. And at 41 power, you can start to resolve individual stars. At 85 power, it shows more stars, and 126 power shows even more stars. Slide Master, slide number 19. M12, yes, there's a lot of globular clusters in Ophiuchus. It's a very similar globular cluster to M10, 112 is, and it starts to resolve at low power, and the view is improved at higher powers. It's less dense than the other globular clusters listed here for this constellation. Therefore, the core actually resolves better. Slide Master, slide number 20. M14 is similar to M9 in brightness, and it mostly is unresolvable with an 8-inch telescope. Now, at 126 power and an 8-inch telescope, a few individual stars pop in and out of view, but overall the cluster appears mostly as somewhat a mottled, fuzzy ball, and a little bit brighter in the core. It still is easy to notice in the 50-millimeter finder and binoculars. Slide Master, slide number 21. Rho Ophiuchus and Rho Ophiuchus Nebula Complex. Rho Ophiuchus itself is a triple star system, and 2 brightest components are fairly easy to split. The 2 brightest stars in the system are noticeable at 84 power and can be cleanly split at 125 power. The nebula complex is best seen with a fast focal ratio telescope, like a Dobsonian. At 41 power, only a slight brightening of the sky background is visible around Rho Ophiuchus. That's also with an 8-inch telescope. Some of the other nearby stars are also involved in the surrounding nebula complex. The emission nebula around the nearby Antares, which is in Scorpius, is noticeable, and the nearby globular cluster M4, also lies in Scorpius, adds some spice to the interesting region of the sky. This is a great target for astrophotographers, and what I'm showing you here in the video version is by Jason Ware. imager from the Astronomy Club. That goes way back. He's been doing this for a long time. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 22. Now, there are a lot more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Ophiuchus, the snake wrangler. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 77 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin from the Astronomical League in about a year. Slide Master, slide number 23, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Ophiuchus, the Snake Wrangler. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next time I'll take a look at a mythological figure, Draco the Dragon. And this is KF5JHA. Before I send it back to our net control, the net control for next week is an interesting guy, and he's wanting to do one of two things: either talk about the eclipses or talk about the doubling in size of the universe. If any of you have any ideas of which way that net controller should go, please let him know. This is KF5JHA, back to Billy, our net control.
Thanks very much, Chaz. This is KFI-TDS, Billy, your net control. Skynet. At this time, we're going to cover space launches for the week, so at this time I will return then to Tom at KE5ICX. If you wouldn't mind doing a quick check-in round, some folks on frequency that would like to check in, and then you can go right into your report for space launches for the week. This is to KE5ICX from KF5TDS.
And I'll be happy to do that. This is KE5ICX, so go ahead and take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, let us know you are out there. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike, Thomas in Euless.
Kilo 0, Foxtrot, Echo Romeo, Chris in Southeast Dallas.
We got a few more people out there. I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge Brenda. I read all her stuff and I never added her to the net, but I got WB50ZL, Brenda in Dallas, KB9SOK, Sean over in Fort Worth, KI5JCM, Thomas in Euless, and K0FER, Chris in Southeast Dallas. I have you all checked in. Okay, next up is, of course, space launches for the week. Let's see. The next one that I can tell you about is July 26th, the Falcon Heavy launch from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. The SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket will launch Jupiter 3 EchoStar 24, a broadband communications satellite. It is a Ka-band high-throughput, ultra-high-density satellite for EchoStar's Hughes network system. The Jupiter 3 EchoStar 24 will support in-flight Wi-Fi, maritime communication connections, enterprise networks, backhaul for mobile network operators, and community Wi-Fi solutions across the Americas. That should be really interesting. You should do a thing on that. Presentation. That actually is fairly intriguing. Next up, we have the O3B mPower 5 and 6 launches from SLC-40, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Falcon 9 rocket will launch the third pair of those broadband internet satellites into medium Earth orbit for SES of Luxembourg. Then we have Falcon 9 launch World View Legion 1 and 2, there's no date yet, but this will launch from Vandenberg Space Force Base, SLC-4E. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch first pair of Worldview Legion Earth observation satellite for Maxar Technologies. They plan to deploy 6 commercial Worldview Legion high-resolution remote sensing satellite SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets. First stage of the Falcon 9 will return to landing zone 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base for landing. Next up is another Falcon 9. This will be SDA Trachea 0B. This will launch from Vandenberg at SLC-4E again. This rocket will launch 18 of these demonstration satellites for the U.S. Military Development Agency. The launch is the second of the 2 Falcon 9 missions to carry the SDA demonstration spacecraft for future Constellation military missile tracking and data relay satellites. The first stage booster will be landing at landing zone 4 at Vandenberg. August 4th, the Antares launch. This is from Wallops Island in Virginia, pad 08. The Northrop Grumman Antares rocket will launch the 20th Cygnus cargo freighter on the 19th operational cargo delivery flight to the International Space Station. The mission is known as NG-19. The rocket will fly in the Antares 230 Plus configuration with 2 RD-181 first stage engines with a Castor 30 XL second stage. This will be the final flight of the Antares 230 Plus rocket before the redesign with new U.S.-made engines. Next up will be in the launch to be determined. Not sure, this one may be much later. I can't quite read what I wrote here, but at any rate, this will be SLC-41 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket will launch the NROL 107 mission for the National Reconnaissance Office. This mission will launch a classified payload known as the Silent Barker. The mission is a partnership with NRO and the U.S. Space Force, which has disclosed little information about the payload other than it will focus on satellite threat intelligence and space situational awareness. And I'll give one more here. We have coming up in August to be determined the Galaxy 37 launch. This is from SLC-4E at Cape Canaveral. Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Galaxy 37 C-band television broadcasting satellite for Intelsat. The spacecraft is built by Maxar. The Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, I'm done there. I'll send it back to Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX, and I'll do the next segment if you would like me to from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, I would like for you to do the next part if you would not mind, since Brenda is having trouble with her radio. I'll go ahead and return it to you, Tom, KE5ICX from KF5TDS.
All right, very good. I will do that. So Brenda has submitted an article from Science Daily and Science News. It says giant swirling waves at edge of Jupiter's magnetosphere. Waves produced by the Kelvin-Helmholtz instabilities transfer energy in the solar system. Oh boy, here we go. A team led by Southwest Research Institute and the University of Texas at San Antonio has found the NASA's Juno spacecraft orbiting Jupiter frequently encounters giant swirling waves at the boundary between the solar wind and Jupiter's magnetosphere. The waves are an important process for transferring energy and mass from the solar wind, a stream of charged particles emitted by the sun to planetary space environments. Jacob Montgomery, a doctoral student in the Joint Space Physics program between UTSA and SWRI, noted that this phenomena occur when a large difference in velocity forms across the boundary between the two regions in space. This can create a swirling or vortex at the interface that separates the planet's magnetic field and the solar wind, known as the magnetopause. These Kelvin-Helmholtz waves are not visible to the naked eye, but can be detected through instrument observations of plasma and magnetic fields in space. The plasma, a fundamental state of matter made up of charged particles, ions, and electrons, is ubiquitous across the universe. Kelvin-Helmholtz instabilities are a fundamental physical process that occurs when solar and stellar winds interact with planetary magnetic fields across our solar system and throughout the universe, Montgomery said. Juno observed these waves during many of its orbits, providing conclusive evidence that Kelvin-Helmholtz instabilities play an active role in the interaction between the solar wind and Jupiter. Montgomery is the lead author and of a study published at Geophysical Research Letters that uses data from the multiple Juno instruments, including the magnetosphere, magnetometer, and the SWRI Jovian Aurora Distributions Experiment, or JADE. Juno's extensive time near Jupiter's magnetopause has enabled detailed observations of this phenomena, such as Kelvin-Helmholtz instabilities in this region, says Dr. Robert Ebert, a staff scientist at SWRI who served as an adjunct professor at UTSA. This solar wind interaction is important as it can transport plasma and energy across the magnetopause into Jupiter's magnetosphere, driving activity within that system. And again, this article is available on the Science Daily, your source for the latest research news, it says. A lot of good articles here, by the way. Back to you, Miss Billy, KE5I6.
Thank you very much, Tom. This is KFI CDS Billy, your net control for this session. The Skynet. Tom, would you mind covering one more segment about the visible satellite passages? That's the next one up. If you don't mind, let me know.
No, that's fine. And yeah, this happens from time to time, so no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and read out, this is from Heavens Above, and I get this information from there. Just plug in your longitude and latitude or your location, city and state, and it will pop in with visible satellite passes. And the first one is, of course, the International Space Station. I have only one really good pass. That one would be July 30th. Now, there's some higher passes, but they are partial. Very short passes that go into shadow. So the best full pass, July 30th, minus 2.8 magnitude at 2136 local time. It'll reach its highest point at 35 degrees at 2139 out of the northeast and then go to the east. Tiangong is the next one. This is the space station operated by the Chinese. There are several good passes. We've got July 22nd. Wait a minute. I got to go July 23rd. This one's already passed, so July 23rd has a good pass. This is minus 1.0 magnitude, 5:03 a.m. out of the west-northwest. Reaches highest point at 5:04 at 38 degrees, and it'll fall to the northeast at 5:07 at 10 degrees. Next up is July 31st. That one is a minus 0.5 magnitude at 5:14 a.m. out of the northwest. It'll reach its highest point at 34 degrees at 5:17, and it'll fall to the east at 5:20. Next up is Envisat, which is the dead Earth Resources satellite. There's a good pass at July 25th, 3.2 magnitude at 5:01 a.m. You'll reach its highest point at east-southeast at 70 degrees at 5:06, and it'll fall south at 5:11. We have July 27th. There's two passes. The better one is 3.0 magnitude at 5:26 a.m. At reach its highest point at 64 degrees at 5:31, and it'll fall at 5:36 to the south-southwest. Next up is July 28th. July 28th has passed 3.7 magnitude, 4:49 a.m. out of the north-northeast. It reaches its highest point at 51 degrees in the east, and it'll fall to the south at 4:58.24. And then finally, July 30th has a pretty good pass, 2.9 magnitude, 23. So again, you can get all this information at Heavens Above. You don't need any special programs in order to do that. You just go ahead and plug that information into your browser, and it will remember it. You can also become a member and sign up. It's free, and log in, and then it will always remember your location. That's it for me this evening, I believe. Back to you, Miss Billy, KE5ICX.
You are correct. That was the last segment. Thank you so much for all your help tonight, Tom. Next up is astronomical Q&A. So if there's anybody on frequency that has questions, we have knowledgeable folks online. So please now with your call sign and your question. Move on to our 73 round. Are there any checked-in stations with other remarks or any questions?
With Alpha Zero Delta.
Someone, but it was very choppy. Could you please come again with your call sign?
Whiskey Alpha Zero Delta.
I think I heard Whiskey Oscar Sierra Delta. Was that correct?
WA0D.
That came through very clear that time. Whiskey Alpha 0D. Did you have a question for this evening's now?
No, I was just going to add that, so we were planning on the ISS on NG-19. That's a Northrop Grumman launch 19. I had to cancel that for the ham TV. We were going to put up a digital TV for the ham TV, which, so we've delayed that a little bit. I was just out in California. We were looking at a new filter we're going to be adding to that. And so I'm sure most of the hams here in the area probably doesn't know that, but we are adding amateur radio digital TV to the International Space Station. And actually, I'm the director of engineering for the space station for what goes up there here. And so we are looking forward to it, so are the Europeans, getting that up there and using it for classrooms and so forth. And it's probably going to be delayed about 6 months here. We actually got the digital TV repaired, the ham TV repaired, and we're prepping to try to get it back up on the station. We were going to launch it here, but we decided to hold off because we had some questions, and I had to pull it from NG-19. But it looks like we'll be going up on SpaceX 30, just after the first of the year here, so that's kind of what we're looking forward to. And I thought I'd throw that in there since NG19 came up here just a little bit ago. Just to let everybody know that we are doing amateur radio activities with the ISS and other space stations, and I'm working on the Lunar Gateway here too. So, if there are any questions, you can ask me. It's WA0D.
Thank you very much. And did you check in previously to our net? If not, please include your name and where you're transmitting.
Yeah, so this is WA0D. I just got back from California. I said I'm at DFW Airport here right now, just getting ready to leave. So, but anyway, name here is Randy, and if there's any questions, feel free to ask me about that. That's I can tell you about anything we're doing on the space station, both in the U.S. Columbus side and over on the service module side, the Russian side too. Actually, one other thing I'll add too is that we're updating the SoScan TV over on the Russian side. We should have a new laptop up on the Russian side here. I think in about a month is what we've got scheduled for right now. So that should be good. And also in about a week, we are scheduling in the next few days SoScan TV down on the Gateway on the repeater side of it too. So just FYI, you can go to our webpage to look at that. We were going to do an experiment with the Gateway mode here. So folks, if you're wanting to listen to the ISS on the Gateway mode, you might capture some of the SoScan TV just being tested just a little bit. But here in about a month, we'll have the official SoScan TV actually working over in the Russian side at that time. So this is WA0D, Randy, standing by.
Randy, we appreciate you checking in and providing all that information. Does anyone on frequency have questions for Randy? If so, please come now with your call sign. Hearing any, so once again, Randy, thanks for checking in. I wish you safe travels there at DFW Airport. Let's go ahead, final check-in round. Tom, if you wouldn't mind, see if we have any last-minute check-ins to get in for the count before we close this evening's net, and if you would give me a count for all the checked-in stations, I'd appreciate it. ICX from KF5 TDS.
Thank you, Miss Billy. I'll do exactly that. Any final check-ins, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Echo 5, Bravo Sierra Romeo, Mickey and Hurst.
Kilo Echo 5, Yankee Zulu Papa Miranda, Plano.
Okay, we picked up two final folks checking in, as well as Randy, WA0D. I got KE5BSR, that's Mickey over in Hurst, and I got KE5YZP, that's Miranda, over in Plano. So all total, we had 28 check-ins this evening. Back to you, Miss Billy, from KE5ITX.
Tonight we had 28 hams participating on the air, so thank you to all them to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources, join the w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5TDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:26 local time and returning the computer to normal amateur use. 7-3 everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, following Skynet at 10:30 p.m. is the Afterglow Movie Net, which will be posting a sci-fi show Moonbase. 3 everybody.
And thank you, Miss Billy. And we'll be back in about 4 minutes, with a very good net control taking over for tonight. 4 minutes. See you then. KE5ITX.
Normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
ND5F, are you on frequency?
KE5ICX, this is NV5F. I'm watching your countdown clock. It says, now. I'm supposed to start now.
Oh, okay, there's a delay on that. I think it's about 20 seconds. I don't know. It's all yours. Go right ahead. I'm backing away from the exploding console.
Okay, well, I figured I'd give everybody an extra 20 minutes to go to the bathroom and grab a snack, and I'm sure every single person who was on Skynet will join us here for the Afterglow movie. My name is Virginia. My call sign's NV5F. I am going to be your net control for this evening. Tom and I had an arm wrestle at the Moon Day about who had stayed up the latest, gotten up the earliest, and was the tiredest, and he won. So I am here to do this wonderful episode, Moonbase 3, episode 1. So what we will do is I will read a synopsis of this episode, and then we will take some check-ins and see who wants to talk to us, who's seen this movie. Even if you haven't seen it, you can talk to us about it, or what you think about what we're saying about it, or whether or not you'd like to watch it, or whether you may have seen it and forgotten everything you ever saw. It is a British science fiction show. I think it lasted a grand total of 5 episodes. But anyway, we're going to talk about episode 1, and you are welcome to join us here. We're going to take some check-ins and talk about the plot, and then we'll go back and do another round and talk about characters and acting, and then we'll go a third round and talk about special effects or music or whatever other little speeches or meltdowns you want to have about this show. So, first, let me read this synopsis, which I actually dug up. It looks like a decent synopsis from a site, a science fiction site online. So this episode is episode 1. It's called Departure and Arrival. And the synopsis goes about like this. On the moon, the director of Moonbase 3, the European moon base, is not having a good day. He's got to go to Earth to defend his budget, which is already inadequate, and his second in command, Michel Lebrun, the base doctor, Helen Smith, want him to make a decision grounding his personal shuttle pilot. The doctor cannot cite any evidence that he is unfit to fly, and neither wants to ruin the man's career or on a gut feeling, or so the director signs off on his fitness. That was a mistake. The pilot is suffering from a bit of paranoia and delusions of grandeur, and when a minor malfunction happens on the flight, he insists on fixing it himself in flight via spacewalk. That too was a mistake, as he comes detached from his tether and hurtles to his death. Alone aboard the craft and unqualified as a pilot, the director panics and attempts to fly the ship. Mistakes just keep happening, and his inexperience leads to the destruction of the shuttle. On Earth, the European Space Commissioner votes to appoint a new director. The French want to appoint the base's second in command, the Frenchman, as a director, but the British have a better idea. Let's appoint a British person. And as the British are the chair of the commission, the British David Calder, lecturer at Oxford, is appointed. On the moon base, Michel is upset he didn't get the promotion, and as he prepares for Calder's arrival, he prepares his resignation. Both Dr. Smith and Director of Operations, Tom Hill, try to convince him that he must not resign. A resignation will be interpreted as an admission of guilt for his part in the accident, and his career will be ended. He relents, at least until the anticipated inquiry into the accident occurs. Calder arrives and announces that there will be an investigation, and he'll be conducting it. no outsiders. Calder rushes the inquiry very quickly, interviewing all of the involved staff in short order. The interviews reveal that the three major command staff had reasons to doubt the calls, all of them on the carpet, suspending them. Then they, along with Calder, leave to face a tribunal on Earth the very same day. On the way to Earth, the shuttle is violently rocked. The pilot announces that they've been hit by a meteoroid and they must make an emergency landing on the moon. Their radio is non-functional, damaged in the accident. The pilot has a full air supply, but the others only have a 30-minute transit supply. While the pilot remains to repair the radio, the command staff must work together and try to walk to a nearby seismologist station. When their air runs out, the American moon base commander comes along in a moon buggy and rescues them. It was all a ruse on Calder's part. His criticisms remain. All three needed to step up and make the tough call to ground the pilot, and his fake emergency landing demonstration was to reinforce upon them that on the moon they must absolutely rely on one another to survive. His real report to the commission says no one but the pilot was to blame. Okay, so there's a little trick ending, kind of a twist ending here. Anyway, let's get a list of all the people who saw this movie and would like to talk to us about it this evening, even if you haven't seen it and you would like to just tell us you're listening, or if you want to comment, I can call on you. So first, list of people, tell us your name, your location, of course your call sign, and whether or not you saw this wonderful British TV drama from 1970.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony, I did not see the movie.
Kilo 0, Foxtrot Echo Romeo. Chris, I watched the first 2 episodes.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. Tom, yeah, I saw the first episode.
KA1VIK, Jeff in Fort Worth. I have not seen it, but sounds interesting.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, cruise in Arlington. Yes, I saw it.
Okay, that's a pretty good group to start out with. We have NT5TM Tony. He did not see the movie. We had our next contestant was Chris. He said he did. Chris, can you repeat your call sign to me, please?
Kilo 0, Foxtrot Echo Romeo. Chris.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Kilo 0, Foxtrot Echo Romeo. Appreciate that. That was a goof on my part. I just totally spaced out when you were giving your call. Next we have Tom, KE5ICX. I know he saw this show. Next we have KA1VIK, Jeff. No, he did not see the movie. And then we had KI5KWG Cruz in Arlington, and yes, he did see the movie. So are there any more check-ins before we get started on Moonbase 3? This is NV5F. Okay, well, I know Brenda is without radio. I hope she may be at least getting to listen on Echolink. Are there any Echolink check-ins? Please come now. Okay, nothing heard there. So it looks like we have 3 yeses and 2 nos, but we may check in with Tony and Jeff and see if they just want to chime in on this. So let's get started with the first person on our list is Tony. Tony, do you have any thoughts on the synopsis for this movie or whether or not you'd be interested in watching it?
Virginia, it was great to work alongside you and Tom and Calvin today and to meet Cruz for the first time. But, you know, I have no opinion yet. I'm going to listen attentively through this first round, and I will express an opinion in the second round. I don't know, I'm a little skeptical, but every now and then we do find a hidden gem, and I heard somebody voluntarily watched 2 episodes, so maybe there's something. NT5TM.
NT5TM, NV5F. Okay, we appreciate that and appreciate being willing to comment later on. Okay, next we have Chris, K0SER. And Chris, I think you're new to me. I don't know if you've been on here before, but you said you saw the episode, so tell us what you think about the plot of this Moonbase 3, Episode 1.
Thank you. Yeah, when I was watching this, I was strongly reminded of the Apple TV show For All Mankind, to the point where I think All Mankind may have stolen some of the political intrigue plot points from the first couple of episodes of this. It was, as far as this BBC show, it's kind of your standard fare. The sounds a lot like kind of a more realistic Doctor Who, but it was focused mostly on the interpersonal relationships rather than the technical challenges of being around on the moon. Not the greatest thing, but not the worst thing I've seen from the Afterglow movie net suggestions. This is my first check-in in probably about 7 or 8 months. K0FER, back to net.
K0FER, NV5F. Okay, well, Chris, I'm guessing I've heard you on here before. I've only done net control a couple times, and this is time number 2, so I'm guessing I've heard you on here before, and if I don't recognize your name and your call sign, I apologize. Yeah, I think what you said makes sense. It's got that definite British flavor to it. I'll definitely give my comments at the end of this round. All right, Tom, if you're still awake over there, what did you think of the...
Oh, if I could only understand it. I started fading a little bit last night and watching it with all of you and making comments. It was like, how would I describe this thing? Okay, the first thing that really scared me about this is when the guy went out in his spacesuit at the very beginning and went out to the spacecraft carrying his briefcase. And the whole thing shows him carrying his briefcase. So the emphasis was on the briefcase. He's an administrator. He's going to do administrative things. Then he gets on board the spacecraft with his personal pilot, opens up his briefcase, and looks through his paperwork. He's sitting there with his helmet off, going through paperwork. At this point, my eyes are rolling in the back of my head, wondering just how exciting this is going to be. And then, of course, the whole thing goes wacky, and his pilot decides to go out and fix the antenna, I guess it's the AE-35 antenna or something on his, cardboard spaceship, and manages to get himself and his thread-like line cut. Does anybody buy good, rope anymore? I mean, it's what it looks like. Came from the local Home Depot or something, and how did it break so easily? I mean, that wasn't the fault of the pilot. That's the fault of whoever maintains all the block and tackle on board the cardboard spaceship. I mean, come on. Maybe they made it breakaway because if it pulled too much, it would rip the cardboard spaceship apart. That's what I think may have happened. That's part of it. Break. So I'm going, hooray, yay, we got rid of that guy and his psycho pilot and the boring administrator who's going back to Earth, because if we'd kept on that route and the spaceship didn't blow up, we'd all be bored to death and know everything about his plans to save the program, to save Moonbase 3. At any rate, so now we have the new guy who shows up, who's British, I guess, and the French guy who sounds suspiciously very British, who didn't get the job, and now we're going to. He goes around and does the administrative thing and shakes everybody's hands and says, "Good job, you're doing great." Then takes the three people, Dr. Smith and John Robinson or whatever the name of the other guy was, and the third person, the gal, and they're it decides to say they were all incompetent boobs, and what are they doing there, and why didn't they take care of these guys, and all of that. And it's like, I don't know, it's beginning to sound like work, only on the moon. So I was kind of losing interest. It was not terrible, but it was kind of really slow. So the good news is that everything was lit so darkly, everybody could take a nap and you'd never realize it. But including myself, I could close my eyes and then wake up and they're still arguing. I'm surprised they didn't recover the briefcase so that they could go through the stuff and continue to discuss all of that. So I don't know. And then the ending, whatever the ruse was, I was getting confused at that point because I have a hard time understanding British people. They have a different word for everything. Their language is so different from American. So, but I don't know. At any rate, that's what I got on this round. Ain't it great? Back to you, KE5 ICX.
Okay, thanks, Tom. You had me in stitches for most of that, and some of it definitely plays on some of my thoughts about this, but I will save that till the end of this round. So KA1 VIK Jeff, I know you didn't see it, but would you like to comment on anything you've heard, or whether or not you'd be interested in watching the first episode of Moonbase 3?
Yeah, King Adam 1, Victor India King, Jeff in Fort Worth. I would be interested in seeing it. I was always a Lost in Space fan. This program that you're discussing came out, I think it came out in the early 70s, but I've never seen it. But I'm interested in taking a look at it and finding out what it's about. And after you read that synopsis, I found it quite interesting. And I appreciate that.
Okay, KA1VIK, NV5F. All right, well, it's good that this is interesting to you. And I mean, it's definitely not the worst thing we've ever watched, and it's definitely got, like, there was at least an attempt at some kind of weaving of a plot and setting up something for, a show to grow out of. So next we will check with Cruz in Arlington, KI5KWG. Cruz, what do you think of this thing, Moonbase 3?
KI5KWG, I think that's just it. it wasn't eye-wateringly horrible. It was just really kind of dull, mediocre. So I don't think there's a whole lot to really criticize. My very first read on this was at holding an axe over the head of an entire staff, as the new administrator does not build trust, and it's kind of a dangerous thing to do, despite the plot twist at the end that we learned, or maybe even because of it. I'm not sure that starting a series like this, which you can only imagine is intended to be along a patriotic trajectory, along as it goes along, by making all of your own people seem incompetent, I'm not sure that's the best way to build the audience. Now, that plot twist at the end, I thought it was really clever. I didn't see it coming, kind of liked it, but I also, in hindsight, after the speech about why it's important to trust each other, I'm not sure that twist doesn't twist back on itself when one way of interpreting it is that we can't rely on each other, but we can rely on the Americans. So it was a strange way to open a series, but I didn't watch anymore, so I don't know where they were going with that, and they probably resolved that. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that's what I've got on part 1, and yeah, I'll save that one for part 2. So, KI5KWG, back to net.
KI5KWG, NV5F. Okay, thanks. Those are good comments. A lot of these are definitely spurring on some of my own thoughts. So, before I give my thoughts, I'll see if anybody else would like to check in for Afterglow this evening and discuss Moonbase 3, Episode 1. And if you would like to jump in on the end of the list and get in on the end of round 1, you saw this show.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this.
Okay, KB9, SOK, there's Sean. I was kind of hoping you would show up. We're still missing a couple of the usual suspects, but I'm glad you're there. What did you think of Episode 1 of Moonbase 3?
Yeah, this is KB9, SOK. Yeah, sorry I missed that first round of check-ins, but yeah, I agree with what Tom and Cruz had to say about this. I think that they nailed a lot of the things that I'd written down as well. But yeah, first of all, my first thought was when this movie started was, it's slow. But yeah, the whole thing about, if your psychologist truly believes that a pilot is not fit, they wouldn't have allowed him to fly. I mean, this is just kind of completely ridiculous that even got to that point. The second thought I had was, well, typically those that we send into space are usually truly some of our brightest people. We don't send just, half-cocked people into space typically, because after all, we obviously want people that can handle pressure. They go through so much training, to what to do in emergencies and just how to stay calm. And, and we've seen this in real-life situations where, our astronauts usually stay cool and figure out the problems. And these just didn't feel like real people that we would actually send to space, not in the least bit. So, I was kind of put off from the very beginning, unfortunately, with this particular show. But that, since I tried to give it a chance, as we went on, and of course, the replacement director, it's already been touched on about his whole ruse and all that. And I kind of, Tom kind of hit it for me when he said it feels like work. And that's exactly kind of what this reminded me of, was the day of work. In the past, I've actually had a boss like that liked to come in when you first got hired, and you wanted to be your friend and happy-go-lucky, and then 2 days later he's yelling at you, and not really knowing anything at all about what's really going on. And it's like, seriously? That's exactly what it felt like. You know, it's like, exactly as Cruz said, it's like, how do you build any kind of trust? You know, first he comes in, oh yeah, nope, I'm going to be fair, then he does this crazy ruse, and, you know, and then starts yelling at them, you know, space is dangerous, space is dangerous. We got to work together. And it's like, it was just, yeah, I just thought it was kind of ridiculous. You know, I think the overall concept was interesting, you know, especially for in the 70s. Obviously, it was, of course, after our Apollo missions and all that. So, you know, it does, you know, it was an interesting idea about what, you know, of course, everybody thought we were going to have bases on the moon. So I liked the idea of that. It was kind of neat that they had showed that there was multiple countries that had bases. And it was, you know, it was nice, I guess, to show that the British and the Americans were willing to work together up there. So I thought that the series could have had some real potential. And I did go on and watch the second episode, just because since the first one was only an hour, and I wasn't much more pleased with the second episode. It might have been a hair better. It probably was, but I had no interest in moving on to episode 3, if that says anything. So, yeah, that's all I got. Back to that KB9 SOK.
KB9 SOK, NV5S, thank you. Well, my comments follow along with most everybody else's. I can't help it because my real entry into, I mean, I loved Star Wars and things when I was really, really young. But my first real entry into my real love of science fiction was the movies 2001 and 2010, and so I can't help but compare something that's come out 2 years after 2001, takes place in the year 2003, so that's also 2 years later, and has the whole paradigm of, oh, this country has a base and this country has a base on the moon, and we're trying to make space travel look routine. I mean, the whole guy with the briefcase going on a business trip back to Earth to defend his budgets and do all these routine things. It's like Dr. Floyd, you know, falling asleep on the Pan Am shuttle on the way to the space station to go to the moon, and drinking his, you know, his sippy cup meal and reading the exhaustive directions to the space toilet. And of course, that show was done way better, but at this point, everybody was kind of copying 2001. So I think this was like, hey, let's make a show based on the whole paradigm of moon bases that we see in that movie. And so the implication, I guess, is that, you know, not everybody who goes up into space is going to be a qualified astronaut. We're going to have passengers and people who don't know how to fly a spacecraft, and, you know, and so you've got the guy who the pilot wigs out, and instead of the computer going crazy, you know, and killing a guy while he's outside of the ship repairing the antenna, the guy goes crazy and decides he has to go outside of the ship and repair the antenna, and then he gets somehow jettisoned with his Home Depot space rope, and you know, you've got, like you said, the day at work, the psychologist and the director and the guy who wants to be the director, and they go, oh, no, let's bring in this whole brand new guy, you know, and then like 2 days later, this guy who's never been in space and has no interest in space, as far as they know, is like suddenly on the moon, and everybody seems to have like sort of normal gravity there, and it's just like, yeah, another day at work. Like, I don't have to acclimate to being on the moon. I'm just Mr., you know, yuck it up, laugh it up, new boss, and I'm going to be all buddy-buddy with you, and then immediately tell you that I'm going to, like, rake you over the coals and ask you a bunch of questions. And I'm with Cruz. It's like he's trying to teach them to trust each other, but then it's kind of like he's teaching them not to trust him. And I do think it's kind of... The twist ending did get me. Like, I didn't see that coming either. And it was kind of funny that the Brits would be like, yay, the Americans saved us. You know, I guess it means that by 1970, you know, they were truly our friends again after that whole Revolutionary War thing. But anyway, I thought that was pretty amusing. And they try to make it look like, oh, you know, in 30 years, this is all going to just be commonplace, and we're going to be just, going to the office on the moon, and let's see what that would be like and make a show about it. I think that was kind of the whole idea, and I thought, well, the plot could be from any, like, lawyer drama or police drama or any other fill-in-the-blank, but these people just happen to work on, they're running a moon base, and the whole ideas of budgets, and, I did think it was kind of crazy that Dr. Smith was like, oh, if I ground this guy, like, it'll ruin his career, and it's like, well, no, everybody has a bad day every now and then, and, if you can tell he's, like, fatigued and needs a day off, then ground him. It's not like it's going to just make everybody hate his guts and think he's crazy, I thought that was a little over the edge or whatever, and so, yeah, it was, I saw what they were trying to do here, and of course, any show with someone named Dr. Smith in it, all I can think about is Lost in Space. I know that Dr. Smith is a lady in here, but anyway, and there was definitely a thing, where the new boss comes in, and she's trying to, like, he's handsome, and she, and maybe I should save that for round two. But anyway, so yeah, I kind of agree with everybody else, and I kind of see what they were kind of trying to go for here, which is, let's make being on the moon like, kind of like in 2001. They were doing the exact same thing. They just, Stanley Kubrick just does it way more interestingly because he's, such a great filmmaker, and he does all this, just cool subtext and stuff like that. And of course his budget was way bigger too, and British TV definitely has that feel of very cerebral, very laid back, very calm, and not very action-packed, and this definitely had that overall atmosphere to it. So, anyways, that's probably all I should say. NV5F, I'm Virginia. I'm your net control for Afterglow. We're going to go to round two and see what Tony, NT5TM, has to say after all of this nonsense.
Well, thank you. Yes, Aaron and I were talking about some of those early parts of 2001 with the very awkward conversations and how kind of alarming that was in a very subtle way without having to have a big alien bursting out of anyone's chest. So yeah, I think I am intrigued enough to give this a one-episode try. Although the first episode of something is often pretty poor. I don't know how long this series went on. But when people don't know their characters and so forth, when I introduce Babylon 5 to people, season 1 is not so good, season 5 is not so good, but it's very much a Gaussian curve. 2 and 4 are great, and 3 is just perfect television. So yeah, it can take a long time for things to get going, and the actors and directors to all learn how to work with each other, and the writers to get used to, okay, what this person can do. So, I don't know. A really awkward first episode can still be a sign of things to come, and I am actually a little intrigued. So, there's a lot of bad movies in the world, but maybe this wasn't one of them. NT5TM.
NT5TM, NV5F. Okay, that sounds fair to me. I've actually considered putting on episode 2 of this. I think it only made it a few episodes, so it probably wouldn't take that long to just watch all of it and see. Because, yeah, you can see that they're trying to set up some character relations here. They're trying to set up the boss and how he kind of, I think it's supposed to imply that he's developing some sort of rapport with these people by going, ha, fooled you, I told you we were all going back to Earth, but we were really just doing this exercise or whatever. So I'm kind of getting into my comments, so I'll save them for the end of this round. Next we do have Chris, K0SER. What did you think of the acting and characters in Moonbase 3?
Yeah, thank you. The acting and characters were BBC soap opera, I guess. I mean, think Dark Shadows level of like acting. It's kind of what it reminded me of. I mean, not gothic, obviously, but the space angle didn't feel like it was really germane to anything in the interpersonal relationships or the power politics of who gets to be director, who gets to say what. You know, what about the Yanks? What about the Chinese or the Russian moon bases? NT5TM, you can skip this one, I think. Yeah, it's not the worst thing we've watched, but there's just so much better television out there. But I keep coming back that these characters seem to... They just reminded me so much of the characters in Break. The characters in For All Mankind. You have the cocky pilot that they're worried about doing something reckless. You have the political people that are worried about the budget of the thing. Even in later episodes, that they literally find ice, and there's potential space monsters. This thing jumps the shark really quick. Was hoping to give you all hope that this could possibly be good, but it really isn't. It's just not the worst thing I've seen. K0FER.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So you've seen a little bit into the future of this, and you're saying that what seems promising kind of loses ground in episode 2. So I don't know, that might be an interesting train wreck to watch too. So okay, well, let's see what Tom. If Tom is still awake, it looks like on YouTube he seems to be moving around and all that. So let's see if he can give us some on the characterization and acting.
Oh, thank you. Well, yes. Okay, so the characters. We got the Welsh wizard. That would be Dr. Calder, the guy who, beats up all his employees and then says they've got to all work together. I can just see him doing, well, in 1/6 gravity, you probably get away with it, but, doing the whole falling backwards and getting caught, I don't think that would have worked very well, but, I don't know. He's a jerk. Let's face it, he's a jerk. And manipulative jerk at that. And he's a boring manipulative jerk. Did I mention he's a jerk? Nobody likes him. And then this cast, how big is this station? Is it just 4 people on this station? That's it? Are there more? Are there fewer? They walk around, it looks like for hours, walking around the base. Show me everything on the base, And so they do, and they've got, it's light, it turns dark, and, and then they go to the bar, which looks like everything else. Every room looks the same, except never mind, that's the third part. And then, who is this guy? Doctor, let's see, I think it's Tom Hill. He's the guy that, Bobby Sherman on meth. He's real exciting. He's just the guy who's ready and experienced, and he's always making... By the way, they're grumpy. They're all grumpy. They are constantly complaining about each other, talking behind their backs. I don't know. It just seems really odd. And the Bobby Sherman on meth, he was the most animated of the bunch. Well, look at his hair. He's got that hair thing going on. Very, very 1970s, even though the year is 2003, and we know we've moved on from big hair and fun hairstyle. Let's see, who is the other goofball? Let's see, very low. Oh wait, that was very low. That's the other guy. Hold on, I get them mixed up because they're all kind of like. But very low. He's the one with the weird look. The one I was thinking of was Ralph. Dr. LeBron. Oh, he's the one that's going to turn in his his resignation. He's the one that's Bobby Sherman on meth. Now, Tom Hill, now he's really excited. He's got that fancy, nice vest that he wears, and he's very animated and seems to. He looks at everybody like I'm going to I don't know, suck your blood or something. Maybe it was Dark Shadows. He was just kind of weird. I don't think I want to be stuck in a space station or space station or anything for very long with him. He's the guy that if we were on Star Trek, they'd kill him off in the first 10 minutes. And I highly recommend it. So I don't know. Oh yeah, he rescued the escaped cat from the space lab. He has a bunch of people are really proud of what he did, including Calder the jerk. He thinks he's great too until he calls him out as incompetence later on. But the escaped cat from the space lab, really? This is all these people have got to talk about. They're all nuts. They're all nuts. It's got to be they're just freaking crazy because they have to all work together apart. Okay, I got nothing else to add. I talk about Dr. Smith, but they talk behind her back anyway, and then she turns out that she doesn't know what she's doing either. But she plays the counselor, I guess, like on Star Trek. You remember, the one that didn't know anything. I sense there's problems, and then you go, well, can you be specific? No, I can't read that. Why do we give that woman a paycheck? I don't understand. Well, Dr. Smith is the same way. I don't know. Maybe she's a robot. Okay, back to that control. This is KE5I6.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely maybe answer a couple of those comments. That's a lot of stuff there. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. I know you're just hanging in there. Okay. And then next we have Jeff, KA1VIK. Jeff, do you have any comments about what you have heard thus far, as far as whether or not you would be interested in seeing this, or just any other thing you want to comment on?
KA1VIK, I don't, my friend. I appreciate the comeback, and I just enjoyed listening to you guys talk about it. And I'm just going to stay on the side and absorb. KA1VIK, I'll be clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. I'll keep you QRU for the rest of the net, and glad you're enjoying it. We try to make it fun here on Afterglow, all the crazy people that like to stay up. Okay, next we do have Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, give us some on the acting and characterization of Moonbase 3.
KI5KWG. The characterization wasn't bad for a first episode. They hadn't found their characters yet, maybe not even read all their scripts yet, so they didn't really know what to do. But I've seen worse. Technical dialogue. We've all laughed. I noticed Tom had the comments about the noun verb for the Desky. They used during Apollo, and they pulled that out. But it wasn't unbelievable. There wasn't anything really out of context. So, and they didn't try to do too much with the technical dialogue. So, those are things that often stand out with me, is when they try but don't do any research and just get it so badly wrong. That didn't occur in here. But my main problem in faulting of this, and I'm not sure if it's as much in characterization as it is in the plot, but other than being petty bureaucrats, what were any of those people doing on the moon? What was their job? And why they were office people on the moon, and there wasn't anybody doing moon stuff that I noticed. So there was my biggest criticism, I think, of this whole thing, is why were they there? KI5KWG, back to net.
Okay, Cruz. Well, I got Tom on the YouTube. He's pretty tickled about some of your comments. They are pretty fun to listen to. Yeah, they weren't doing any moon stuff. I don't know what the story was there. But yeah, I agree with you. They were pretty stock characters, kind of first episode, beginning of character development. So let's hear what Sean has to say. KB9SOK, what do you think of the acting and characterization in this?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I think actually pretty much hit it. Yeah, the obviously our new leader, the guy in charge, was just clearly a jerk. Yeah, and I'm not sure he said he was a jerk enough times to quite cover it. And yeah, the second in command, yeah, he just, once again, I still even think that if we got to the point of being on the moon, we would still send our brightest up there. Even if it was their job was just paperwork and administration. You know, the second in command didn't strike me, didn't seem like he really knew what he was doing at all. Because I think whoever would be your first and second would have to have, you know, some knowledge of what they were doing up there, and they just didn't seem to have that. And our second in command just kept whining through the whole episode. And just a sneak peek in episode 2, it doesn't get any better. He still complains about it, not being in charge. So it just doesn't get any better. To the comments of what, is there any science up there? Yes, in episode 2, they did actually introduce us to some scientists, but they weren't any better. They were just as bad. And they even kind of repeated the same lesson in episode 2, mixed in with, as it's already been mentioned, a monster. So yeah, they definitely jumped the shark in the second episode, so it doesn't surprise me that this ended with only 5 episodes. So yes, Tony, I don't really recommend this. But no, it's not the worst thing we've seen. It's not even nowhere close as bad as Jetstream. So it's not at that level. But it's just to be quite honest, you're going to be bored. So yeah, we obviously have your two main characters, your two most on-screen characters, and of course the Doctor, which has already been mentioned. Just seemed to always have a gloom look on her face, like she didn't really want to be there, hated her job. And clearly, I think she did. You know, once again, I would think that if you had the opportunity to go to the moon, that you'd have to be excited about that thing. You wouldn't send people that just didn't want to be there, and none of these people seem to want to be there. And that's the way the characters came across. I do agree. Everybody's comments about first episodes, first seasons can be very rough as they find their footing. And a lot of times, season 2, you do see almost totally different characters, because they really kind of figure them out. They too, but yeah, the first season was pretty rough. About a year ago, I started watching the first season again after all these years and forgot just how bad season 1 was, but the show did improve. So yeah, maybe if the show had made it more than 5 episodes, they would have found their grounding. But yeah, I ain't gonna say necessarily the actors are bad. I just think that it was your typical British, you know, show for that time. But as I said, and to your point, Cruz, I think the intensity did stay away from the technical stuff because they probably knew they couldn't pull it off, and didn't want to make it sound like a real type of show that you would think would be on the moon. But that would have added a lot to it had they actually used real technical jargon and made it a little better science. But that might have made it more interesting. But anyway, it's interesting as always. Back to net. This is KB9SOK.
Okay, thank you, Sean. And all the buzz on Jetstream has got me really curious because I was away that weekend, so I am about ready to just go watch Jetstream some afternoon when I just need to be cheered up a little bit by something awful. So I might have to hold that one in reserve. And yeah, I think maybe they might have done more moon stuff if they had a bigger budget. You know, I'm thinking maybe they were hoping, let's get people interested in this and then have the budget to actually do moon stuff. Okay, are there any more check-ins here to jump in at the end of round 2 on Moonbase 3 if you would like to join the Afterglow Movie Net? This is Virginia, NV5F, your net control. Please come now with your call sign, your name, your location, and whether or not you did see the first episode of Moonbase 3. Okay, nothing heard. It is rare that we have takers at the end of round 2. So I'll give my comments here, and they're going to fall in line with most people's. I thought it was the typical acting style for this style of show. I think it's a low budget show. They probably would have done more moon stuff if they'd had the budget to show people doing more moon stuff, and they might have gotten more technical if they thought they could pull it off with effects that would accompany that technical stuff. I did think the verb noun disky stuff was kind of funny, because you would think that if it's being made in 1970 and 30 years has gone by, you'd think they would have a computer. They would project that if we're living on the moon, we'd probably have a better computer that you could talk to, or something, or do something that's easier than a 10-key keyboard of some kind. So yeah, I thought that was kind of funny too. I thought the acting was okay. They the people are probably staple people. If you watch a lot of other British shows from this time period, you probably see these people in quite a few things, and that drama, the British style of drama, tends to be very kind of talky and political and situational things. It's not as, there's not as much of like action. It's not as action-packed, I guess. Even when you watch some of the old Doctor Who's, some of them are kind of like that. And even the old Star Treks, a lot of it's real cerebral. I think they tried to make the new boss guy kind of have kind of a lovable quality, like he was like down to the point and down to business, but he was also sort of handsome and, had that sort of upbeat act, the way he acted. And I think they were trying to get through this whole, I'm going to show these people like how much they really need each other and trick them into working together and prove to them that, they can do this, but they've got to not give in to what other people think about them or the decisions they're going to make, or, they've got to think about each other and care about each other enough to not worry about each other's egos, and, ground a pilot rather than letting his ego get him killed or whatever. I think they were trying to make him kind of likable and, maybe even kind of set up for like maybe a little romance between him and Dr. Smith or something, because she was wary when he showed up, but she kind of had that little bit of, hi, I'm Dr. Smith, and you're kind of cute, and I noticed a little bit of that. And, you got the French guy who's got his feathers all ruffled because he's not first, he didn't get promoted, and, I think they were at least trying to set up, like, something that would be kind of interesting, but, yeah, it's not really moon-specific, but, but then to know already the spoilers that they get really sci-fi heavy monster stuff and all that in episode 2, and then it just goes off the deep end and goes real kind of campy, is kind of disappointing, because I thought, well, maybe it could turn into something like, hey, what if we took that thing from 2001 and made a show out of the moon base, paradigm or whatever. But anyway, I thought the characters were okay. I think they tried, with the little video call with the American guy and that sort of thing. They were definitely trying to go for a 2001, this is all routine sort of future. So I think they were trying to set people up that some of them you would like more than others, and I thought the acting was okay, and I thought the writing was okay. It wasn't like it was just cringeworthy, terrible dialogue or acting or anything. And I did actually care about the pilot dying and then the other guy dying because he panicked, when he was trying to fly the ship and all that. So, I mean, I kind of cared about the people, which basically to me says the acting was all right if you sort of care about them. So I thought it was okay. All right, let's go to round 3. Tony, now that you've heard more spoilers, what do you think about possibly watching Moonbase 3?
Virginia, I'm sorry, I had a local breakup. I don't know if you were calling on me for round 3 or for check-ins or what, NT5TM.
Okay, maybe I made the repeater mad. I talked a long time. I know we're not on a normal timeout, but yes, Tony, what, after everything you've heard so far and some of the spoilers, would you still consider watching Moonbase 3?
Well, yeah, that time I heard you very clearly, and that could have been my fault. There's several sources of interference here in the house. You know, I'm sadly leaning against. I trust a lot of hams. You're good friends to me, and I've been pretty warned here. The fact that it only went 5 episodes there's a blinking, you know, it's a caution and warning there. There's a blinking yellow light on my control panel, and I don't think I should ignore that. I think I should do something else. I could be building a UHF fox hunting antenna. There's a lot of things I could be trying, and I definitely heard some warnings tonight. So I wish it had gotten off to a better start because I'm willing to give the series time. But yeah, 5 episodes sounds like people with better heads than I do for television said no. So I think I'm now leaning back towards no. Although I do appreciate everyone's comments, and I've really enjoyed hearing the net. It was probably better than the show, and I know that's not the first time I've said that. NT5TM.
NT5TM, MV5F. Well, I will guarantee you that one of Tom's rants is worth way more than the whole show, all 5 episodes. So next, let's see what Chris, K0FER, thinks about anything you want to talk about. Music, visual effects, just a general rant about any aspect of this that you care to share with us.
Not much else is left to share. The composer for this was Dudley Simpson, who's of Doctor Who fame. He did most of the classic Who episodes from, not the very beginning, but from the first Doctor to the 4th Doctor. And you hear it in the score. It's like, oh, that's Who. That's the BBC Radiophonic, I forget what it is, that special studio that built all the weird whips and woos and z's and zips and z's for music of the 60s. That's it. K0FER.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Appreciate your comments on the music. I actually kind of had the similar thought. I did not look up the composer, but I definitely had that Doctor Who vibe. So you totally confirmed that one for me. I thought some of it was definitely along those lines. I'll probably comment a little bit later. Okay, Tom, it looks like you've made it to round 3. What do you think about just anything you want to think about?
Oh, never ask me that question. You know, terrible, unpredictable things can come out. Well, let's see. On this film, special effects, not so special. I mean, you and I, yeah, we like 2001: Space Odyssey, which is the gold standard when it comes to special effects, and everything else pales in comparison. This one should be like a lights out. It opens up, and you're under-thrilled by the pan shot of the, you know, model kits that have been bashed to create like a, I don't know, the ping pong ball, storage tanks, and the toilet paper spacecraft with the little paperclip landing gear, and you had all that, of course. And then the sets themselves looks like they could be and maybe were knocked over. one of my favorite parts, and I think Cruz mentioned it last night when we were watching the thing, is when one of the astronauts steps down in the climatic ending, you can see that the lunar dirt gets dusted up, and there's it looks like a welcome mat just below it that gets kind of popped out, and it's a perfect square as the dirt the regolith is moved around in such a way that it creates this like little square, because it's the pad where the guy jumps, and it's covered in dirt to protect his ankles or something. I don't know, whatever the heck it was, but it was like and then of course there's the first thing I noticed is I think they had 2 microphones for the whole thing. So you had a microphone that was mic'd close to one of the actors, and then we only have 3 other actors, let's face it. Oh, and the 2 that are expendable at the very beginning. So total of 6 actors, 2 and 4. And so and then what is it? Dr. Smith speaks, and the microphone's not even anywhere near her. It's like, come on, people. You can rent another microphone. It's okay. It's not going to break the budget. You're saving all that money on cardboard spaceships, so, spend it on the audio. And then the lighting, oh my God, what's the deal with the lighting? I mean, heavy shadows over people's faces, and then there's the excuse, we do nighttime lighting. What, everybody's got to run around with a flashlight or a miner's hat or helmet or something? What the hell's wrong with you people? Pay some money and get some lights. Get microphones. Find better actors. Whatever it takes. It's just, I don't know, they spent like $4.98 on the first episode, and every bit of it's on screen, all $4.98, or pounds, or whatever. But I was kind of underwhelmed by that whole thing. And we had Space 1999, which was okay. It had fairly decent special effects a couple of years later. And by the way, I think this show wasn't it backed by some American people, which is probably why the Americans came in and were able to save them, because we paid for it, for the show to do that. I don't know. At any rate, overall, just goofy actors, goofy sets, goofy things going on with a goofy whole vibe to it. I want to know what goes on at those other bases. Are they competent? I bet they are. I bet you the American station has a pool table. I don't know what these people do. They sit around and play backstabbing each other or something. But at any rate, okay, that's all I got. Goofy. The whole thing, goofy. From production to acting to story. Goofy. Back to you, KE5IC. Oh, wait, I forgot to say something. Please let me... Brenda put some comments out, and I forgot to mention these, so let me put down what she said, because I again forgot. This is from the early round. It says, I'm away, about to write some comments. That's what she said, because I said, are you going to say anything about the film? She says, the good thing about this show is it felt so good when it stopped. Very amateurish, stupid plot. Then she says, the director pleads for everyone to work together after betraying all of them. Not a way to build trust. You can read this if you want. Check in for me, please. Thanks. And I said, I will. Oh, and then she says, that's a good plot point from Cruz that they're all administrators, she said. And then she recommended The Deadly Mantis as one of our movies. And she says, we need to watch this. Anything else? Oh, just skip my comments already mentioned. Well, it's too late now. I already did. So everybody's in agreement. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, NV5F. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much for all your comments and Brenda's comments. And she's pretty obsessed with the mantis, so we might have to talk about...
KI5KWG. Well, first, Virginia, you absolutely positively need to invest several good hours watching Jetstream. It's a no. You just cannot miss that film. Back to this one. I thought I'll say something nice. I thought the weightless scenes weren't too bad, and because most weightless scenes in that era were awful, and this they really did a pretty good job on it, and for what you had to go with, and so I'll give them credit for that. But as Tom mentioned, I'll read my own note here, and I said, cardboard thin plywood floor on a set was not something I would have zoomed in upon, but maybe they were hinting at a future plot line, like the moon is hollow. I don't know, but that was so strange that they seemed to highlight that was a plywood floor underneath the regolith, and I didn't understand why they let that stand in the final edit. So special effects, I'll give it a C- and just being generous. That's what I have on this film, KI5KWG. Oh, one last thought. A film of 4 Dallas area radio club, Dallas amateur radio club guys hanging out by the Apollo 7 and just talking would have been a fine 5-part series, and probably would have topped the ratings. KI5KWG, back to net.
Okay, KI5KWG and V5F. Yeah, I think a comedy series, starring people who watch bad movies and meet each other at aviation museums for Moon Day, that'd be a pretty good show, especially if there were some purple aliens in it. Okay, thank you for your comments on the C- level special effects. And next we have Sean, KB9SOK. Your parting round shots for this. What's your final round going to be like?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I wish I had a lot to add. I think it's been pretty well covered. Yeah, the music was very reminiscent of that time. Did have a similar feel to Doctor Who. Yeah, the sets were pretty bad. The intro scene where they show the base and the moon. Had they intended this to be a series, you would have thought they'd put a little bit of effort into that, because that's what would be used for, now to the end of time. And it was just horrible looking. So yeah, I'm just guessing the budget must have been just completely bad. So yeah, the intro scene was pretty rough. And then yeah, obviously the main set seemed like to me it was they're using the same 4 walls and just kept shifting them into different configurations for each area they're in, and then probably had to shift them back to do the next scene. So yeah, it's once again, and it's one of these things that's, it kind of bugs me in these shows, and they do it quite often. When they show the outside view of the space station, it looks really tiny, which, at the end of the day, it probably would be if we had a base up there. They're not going to waste space. But then they show you inside the ship, and yeah, they wander around forever inside the space. And in the next episode, they show all these different science labs, and it's like, okay, that the outside representation does not represent what they're showing on the inside. And I just hate little details like that. I don't know why. It bugs me for some reason. Obviously with Doctor Who, they get around the cleverly because, the inside's bigger than the outside. They make up some science, and at least it gives you a reason why it's bigger on the inside than the outside. But all these other shows seem to just miss that when it comes to science fiction. I don't know why. I know it's a silly rant, but but yeah, not a whole lot to say on it. Other than that, and just wanted to thank you, Virginia, for being at control tonight, and enjoyed tonight like always. So yeah, looking forward to next week. Back to net. This is KB9SOK.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Those are some good comments. And I sometimes have noticed that it's the opposite, where sometimes you'll see a matte painting of some vast, beautiful, space station or spaceship, and then you see the interiors, and it's just like the most generic, claustrophobic, poorly lit. And some of these interiors in this kind of reminded me of some of those generic interiors that they'll even use for, like, Star Trek The Next Generation or somewhere, where you can tell they're taking the same, like, corrugated-looking wall, and just redressing it for the crew quarters or whatever. And at least in that show, they had some windows, and they would hang a sequined piece of velvet outside to make it kind of look like it was outer space outside. And this thing seemed, the interior seemed a little claustrophobic, because I think it was generally a no-budget show. They're like, oh, we got to get something about, okay, Apollo 2001 has been out. Okay, we got to make something about the moon, and international cooperation is really, that's a good idea. Let's do that. And you could tell there were some things they were kind of trying to emphasize here. And but yeah, the music was definitely it had that late 60s, early 70s synthesizer or organ. It was really analog stuff, like organ. It almost had a horror movie kind of spooky feel to it in places, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I thought on the ships they could have at least used some egg cartons or something, just to mix it up and make it look a little more interesting. But it's like when you watch old Doctor Who, it's just cheesy, but you can really tolerate a lot of cheese if the plot's good or the characters are interesting. And maybe all they had was 5 episodes and they didn't spin them very well. They might have been able to make an interesting show based on a premise that's based on like a popular science fiction movie, and a very popular just news item of people going to the moon. It was a pretty exciting time, and the Apollo program is still going on. So they were trying to ride the coattails of that, and some, a pretty good science fiction movie that had been out a couple years before, and some of the stuff was there was some effort put into some of those visuals, but then some of them were super lame, and they at least tried with some of the weightless shots or the low gravity on the moon shots, and especially toward the end when they were, trying to traverse over to the seismic station or whatever. But I'm kind of with you guys. I thought about maybe checking out a couple more episodes, but the spoilers have basically, as time goes on, so I'll just have to watch Jetstream instead. And we're finished well before the midnight hour, so that's good. And are there any final check-ins or any addenda or parting shots on the first episode of Moonbase 3?
November 5 Sierra, Quebec Alpha.
Okay, we got a new chicken, N5SQA. I know your call sign. Remind me of your name and tell me whether or not you saw this show.
Hi, good evening. Name here is Ron. Remind me of your name and call sign, please. And no, I did not see the movie, but I usually check in after all of my Saturday night stuff is done, usually pretty late, and just here for the count. N5SQA.
Okay, thank you, Ron. And this is Virginia, NV5F. I am running the net for Tom this evening. He was pretty worn out, but he did hang in with us. I'm watching him on YouTube, and he's still awake. So props to Tom for sticking in there, because I know he's got to go run about 400 miles tomorrow morning before it gets hot. So thank you, Ron, for checking in. Glad you're out there listening, and thanks for letting us know you're around. And before I shut her down, any more final comments before we all just fall out in V5F? Okay, I heard someone hit the repeater, but I didn't hear a call sign. So I'm going to take that as a no. I think everybody's had enough of this. We're all convinced that it's probably not worth watching anymore, but we have definitely watched worse, and I could hack it for, I could hack it okay. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all being here to discuss Moonbase 3, and Tom, go to bed, and everybody else have a great rest of your weekend, and we will look forward to next week's movie. Tom, would you like to tell us what that is before we go in V5F?
Oh, yes. Well, I may change it, but at this point it will be the 1976 extravaganza, a great year for movies. This one is called Track of the Moon Beast. Track of the Moon Beast from 1976. KE5ICS.
Okay, thank you. I guess July is should be moon month, so we'll have to do an all moon month next year. Thank you very much, and glad to run the net, and it was fun, and I'll see y'all all around here next week for Track of the Moon Beast, or whatever he said, and I guess I'm tired too. I will return this repeater to normal amateur use, and we will see you for Afterglow next week. This is your Net Control Virginia in V5F 73, and good night.